Let's bring in former Republican Governor John Kasich of Ohio. He's also an MS Now political analyst. And Jim Messina, former Deputy Chief of Staff to President Obama. He's the author of the Messina Memo on Substack. It's good to see you both. Jim, you first. I want to get your reaction to the former president throwing his weight, his full endorsement here behind this redistricting effort in Virginia. Any surprise there? And could it make a difference?
It could absolutely make a difference. Like this early voting starts next week. And so they're trying everything they can to blunt this unprecedented effort by the Republicans to change the maps. I think Virginia did this in a very smart way. The maps will go back to the normal census after this. What they're trying to do is just blunt the Republican efforts in these states, and having Barack Obama, who is the gold standard in our party, give his blessing to this is very helpful. It's a confusing process. You've covered it a bunch, Anna, and voters are trying to figure out exactly what all this means. And having the big guy weigh in here is a very big deal.
Governor, President Obama says this will level the playing field in the midterms this fall. How do you see it?
Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy times. I think Jim would agree. We've never seen this kind of work in all this redistricting, gerrymandering going on all over the country. But what I really believe is that at the end, because of the quid pro quo between states, you do this, we'll do that. I think it's going to have, frankly, minimal impact. I think that the Democrats are going to have a very significant win in the House, and the Senate is getting closer. So I don't think this is going to change that. I think the momentum is with the Democrats right now, and we'll have to see.
It's been a wild time politically, for sure. There's this new shakeup in Montana. Republican Senator Steve Daines announced he won't seek re-election. He had already filed to run, but withdrew his name literally just minutes before the filing deadline and endorsed the state's U.S. attorney to replace him. President Trump then quickly following suit. Governor, what do you make of it?
Well, he wanted to make sure that, he was going to limit the number of people that were going to get in the race. And I think the former governor, Steve Bullock, would have been somebody that would have taken a quick look at it. But, perhaps the time ran out. He clearly did not let anybody know, because he wanted to make sure that he could have the greatest amount of influence as to who would take over. But it's interesting to watch all these Senate races, because the House is clearly going to go Democrat. The question is, if things continue to deteriorate for Democrats or for Republicans, and if momentum builds, the real question is the Senate in play? Right now, I would say not quite yet, but you've got to keep your eye on it.
Jim, your thoughts on this Montana move?
Well, Montana's my home state, and this really pisses me off, Anna. People went nuts about this primary process when Joe Biden got out and Kamala Harris. Donald Trump said it was rigging the election, and yet they do the same thing in my home state. Daines gets out 5 minutes before. Only the U.S. attorney could file. There's no primary. There's no process, and it's kind of crazy. There is an independent in the race. The former president of the University of Montana filed yesterday as well as an independent. It'll be interesting to see. I agree with the governor. I think this is a crazy political year, and maybe an independent is what people are looking for. Leave it to my home state of Montana to create some interesting chaos. It's like a scene out of Yellowstone, Anna.
Let's talk more about a key issue for the midterms: cost of living. Gas prices are going up thanks to the war with Iran. The national average is currently $3.25 a gallon. That's 25 cents more than just a week ago. Governor, what impact do you see this having?
Well, look, I was surprised to see the polling now that the majority of Americans are against the war. But I've got to tell you, first of all, if ground troops are there, you're going to see an increasing number of people who will oppose the war. But when people start to link the war with rising gas prices, which affect the pocketbook, you're also going to see damage being done to the Republicans. So there's no question, at the end of the day, the Iran war, whatever, at the end of the day, in all cases, it always gets down to the pocketbook. And how do people feel about the pocketbook issues, the affordability, and right now they're not very happy with where things are.